Have you ever wondered why we buy high and sell low? Or why we hold on to a losing stock for way, way too long? Well, it turns out the answer isn't really in our spreadsheets, it's deep inside our own heads. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden forces that are secretly running our financial lives. And, there's no better place to start than with this gem from Warren Buffett. What he's really saying here is that you can be the smartest person in the room, but none of that matters if you can't get a handle on your impulses. This just sets the stage perfectly, doesn't it? It tells us that psychology, our temperament, is where the real financial battles are won and lost. So that brings us right to the big question for today. What is actually going on up there when we're about to click buy or sell? We're going to peel back all the layers of the financial brain, everything from our automatic instincts to some really cutting-edge neuroscience. All right, our first stop is that fast, intuitive, and, let's be honest, often completely irrational part of our mind that's so often in the driver's seat when it comes to money. So the brilliant Nobel Prize winner Daniel Kahneman gave us this idea of System 1 thinking. This is your gut reaction. It's the part of you that created all these money habits back in childhood, and now it reacts to a stock market dip with the same primal fear as seeing a predator in the wild. And it does this long before your logical brain can even get a word in. So we have the psychology down, now let's get into the hard science, because we can actually look inside the brain while it's weighing risk and reward. This isn't just theory anymore, this is biology. And the field that lets us peek inside that black box is called neuroeconomics. It's this amazing mix of fields that literally puts people inside brain scanners to see which parts light up when they have to make a choice, like, do I buy this risky stock or do I play it safe? And just look at this. This isn't some tiny niche corner of science. The amount of research has absolutely exploded. This graph basically shows that we're learning more about the wiring of our financial choices right now than at any other point in history. It's happening fast. So who are the key players inside your head? Well, meet the stars of the show. You can think of these three regions as a little financial committee meeting in your brain. You've got one part doing the valuation, and then you have these two that are in a constant tug of war, the ventral striatum and the anterior insula. And here's that battle in real time. The ventral striatum, that's your brain's reward engine. When that part lights up, we feel that pull to buy, to chase a potential win. But then you've got the anterior insula, the risk alarm. Studies show this part fires up as a warning, and people who listen to that signal are more likely to sell before a crash. It's just this constant biological tug of war between greed and fear. Okay, so we've talked about the hardware of the brain. Now let's shift to the software, our emotions. Understanding them is really the next critical piece of the puzzle to becoming a smarter investor. Plato figured this out over 2,000 years ago. Emotion isn't some glitch in our system, it's a core feature. So the goal isn't to get rid of it, that's impossible. It's to understand how it influences us so it doesn't end up sabotaging our bigger plans. This chart just lays out the internal conflict perfectly. We've got our rational brain, right? It knows the facts, it knows we should buy low and sell high, but our emotional brain, well, it feels the panic of the crowd, it feels the sting of a loss, and it screams at us to do the exact opposite. Emotional intelligence is all about figuring out which brain to listen to and when. Have you ever wondered why following the herd just feels so right, so safe? Well, there's a biological reason for that. These neuroeconomic studies found that when our opinion lines up with an expert's, our brain's reward center lights up, like we just got a little cash bonus. It's a literal dopamine hit for conforming, which totally explains why herding is such a powerful and often destructive force in finance. Okay, so we've looked at the brain's wiring and our emotional software. But what about the core operating system, our deepest beliefs about money? This brings us to a really fascinating and pretty influential way of thinking. So this book, written way back in 1910, offers a totally different perspective. It basically argues that our financial reality isn't just about what we do, but it's profoundly shaped by our beliefs and our entire way of thinking. And this is the central idea of the whole book, and you gotta admit, it's a bold one. Wattles is proposing that creating wealth isn't random or based on luck. Instead, it's the result of a specific, repeatable process of both thought and action. He calls it a certain way. So, the book's core ideas are pretty provocative. It argues that building wealth is a science, almost like math. It says it's not really about your environment or even your natural talent. It claims the key is to shift your thinking, to focus on creating value instead of competing, and then acting with total faith in that vision. It's a purely psychological approach, focused entirely on the power of your internal world. So, how in the world do we put all of this together? We've got the brain's hardware, the emotional software, and now this idea of mindset. Let's try to build a practical blueprint for taking back control. Now, this might just be the most hopeful concept in all of neuroscience: neuroplasticity. It is scientific proof that you can change. Your brain isn't fixed. Those knee-jerk financial reactions you have today, they don't have to be the ones you have tomorrow. You can literally, physically rewire your brain. And it all comes together in these 3 steps. First, you have to understand your own wiring. Know that the battle between that reward engine and that risk alarm is real, and it's happening inside your head. Second, you manage the emotions. You don't let fear or greed hijack your rational plan. And third, you consciously shape your mindset. You actively build beliefs that are going to support the actions that lead to your goals. And really, this is the ultimate takeaway. Your financial future isn't some fixed thing that's predetermined by your IQ or where you started. It's a dynamic outcome of these 3 powerful internal forces. And by understanding them, you gain the power to actually influence them. So, we've explored the neuroscience, the emotions, and the power of mindset. Each one is a tool. So the real question, the final question, is for you. Now that you're armed with this knowledge, what changes are you going to make to your own internal financial blueprint?